All right, doing some defense rankings here. Just real quick, letting you know how exactly this video is going to work. I will be going over my rankings of where I predicted, or I'm predicting, each NFL defense to be in the 2022 season. I'm using my algorithm based on where, how well I predict each team will be in each given rankings, and then how many wins that typically equates to. That's how my rankings work. So yeah, you'll understand it more once we get into it. So let's just get into it. So starting with the bottom 8 here, and technically one of them is tied for being the bottom 9th, but whatever. Bottom 8 here. You also see that I have on the screen as well what tier you were in and where that ranks up with how many wins it should get. So for example, if a team's pass rush was tier 1, that would get them 1.48 wins. So if you see your team has that much wins for pass rush, well then that's you were a tier 1 pass rush. Number 32, the Bears, tier 5 everything. They have some real work to do, I would say, on that defense. Clearly, given my prediction, don't love their run defense, don't love their coverage, don't love their pass rush. The Lions have some pass rush value there. I have them as tier 3 pass rush, so there's definitely some value. I don't love their interior defensive line, which is an issue. Definitely don't love their secondary. They're a work in progress, I would say. The Seahawks are another team where they can stop the run well. That's something that you can do. And listen, that definitely adds some value, but I still just don't love their coverage unit. There's a couple guys I'm interested in, especially like some young guys, but I think they're going to have to develop those guys. So that's a concern. And Cardinals kind of in a similar spot. I think that they should stop the run pretty well. I just don't trust them to do a lot else. You have the Texans, who can cover decent, and this is kind of where, coverage. I have coverage as the second most important aspect of football if you just take a look at one specific position grouping. Actually, I take that back. I actually have it as the most important position, one specific position. But keep in mind, a quarterback and a wide receiver combined is worth much more than a coverage unit. And also, a coverage unit is 7 players. So it does kind of make sense that they would slightly edge out like a quarterback, but it's actually pretty close. But I think if Derek Stingley Jr. for the Texans can work out, this coverage could be a lot better. Maybe the defense looks a lot better because of it. The Giants, another team where if you can't cover, you're probably going to find yourself on this list. The 5 bottom tier coverage units are all here in the bottom 6 on the list. Just kind of goes to show how much I value that. At 26 with the Raiders, you might be wondering, wait a second, that math doesn't seem quite right. You have 2.06 wins in the coverage unit, but still only 1.5 total wins. That does not check out. You're right, I am stupid. Don't know how I screwed that up, but yes, that is not the correct math there. It should be 2.5 wins, which would put them at 23rd instead of 26th. So just a little math error. I'm sure I made another one that I didn't even notice. So if I did, let me know in the comments below. Help me out there and help everyone else out who's watching. But yeah, the Raiders, like their coverage unit, I'm a little bit concerned about how they will be without Casey Hayward. I think it's fair to be concerned about that. There's still guys I like on that team. I'm not like, I don't think the coverage should be horrible necessarily, but, that's a big loss to have some other value on their defensive line and front 7 in general. But nothing, I think, it's not star-studded. I mean, you got Max Crosby, he's great, but, you could use some more help there, I think. You go over to the Broncos. Broncos, a lot of people love their coverage unit. I do not. Don't get me wrong, there's stuff to like here, which is why I have it as actually the best tier 4 coverage unit. It was only 1 spot away from being tier 3. Really like Justin Simmons, but what are we getting out of Kareem Jackson? I didn't think he was great last year, and he's 34 years old. I'm not going to bank on, there's a very real chance he's just not that great safety that he once was. Patrick Surtain was a very good rookie. I'm interested in seeing how he develops, but that's good. Ronald Darby seemingly is, some schemes he's amazing, some schemes he's not. So he's a kind of a wild card, as is the case of a lot of corners. Kwan Williams is solid, and the linebackers should be fine. So it's like they don't have a ton of holes, which sometimes that's all you need. It's just have a secondary without a whole. It is a weak link position, but I just feel like if one of these things goes wrong, then this coverage unit could be not great. And in coverage, typically something goes wrong. So I like depth here, which I don't know if I love. I'm sure Broncos fans will tell me why their depth is secretly great, because every team thinks that their depth is secretly great, but that's just why I had it. That's my reasoning. But there is definitely the potential for it to get better. I will 100% acknowledge that. For now, though, I have it tied for 24. Moving over to the Chargers, they're tied with the Broncos in a very similar, for a very similar reason, I would say. I mean, it makes sense because they literally have the exact same rankings on each position. So yeah, similar reason. I just don't love their depth. We need to see more out of Asante Samuel Jr. I've never been overly impressed with him. They can clean that. If they can get that second corner position down, I think I'm not too concerned about it. Maybe it's, I don't know, Bryce Callahan, he's usually a slot guy. I'm not expecting him to be an outside guy because there's a lot to like about it. J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, but again, coverage is a weak link position, so I can't completely, add on to that. Also, I know some people will be very upset to see that the pass rush, pass rush only tier 3 with Khalil Mack and with Joey Bosa. That's absurd. But the interior counts too, and I don't love that interior, especially in the pass rushing situation. Run defense has gotten better. It's not going to be as abysmal, but part of why it was bad last year was scheme, not just talent. So, yeah. Another team that I might have to explain a little bit is the Dallas Cowboys, where the reality is, it's this whole Trayvon Diggs situation. I don't know what to make of Trayvon Diggs. I think that everyone has an opinion on him. My opinion is this is a situation we have not seen before. We have not seen someone like Trayvon Diggs do. He kind of like a Marcus Peters a little bit. I made that comparison early on last season, and I can see that comparison because, of course, I can see it. I made it. But the logic is, Peters early on in his career had years where he gave up a lot of yards, but also had a lot of interceptions. But it was not on Diggs' level, where Diggs led the league in interceptions and he led the league in yards given up. And I think that, some of these yards weren't just like guys throwing it to him underneath and he was coming up and making a tackle. Like, he was getting beat at times. So I think I probably typically will bet against the guy who is giving up a lot of yards but also getting interceptions. Typically, that's just my mindset. But there is a very real chance he ends up being a Marcus Peters, in which case this coverage looks way better, and then the defense looks way better, even though I don't love their front seven. The Panthers, I like their run defense a lot. Big fan of their run defense. I think that's something that's very good about this team. I have it as tier 2. I also don't hate this coverage unit, but again, it's just like, okay, is CJ Henderson going to have to get significant playing time here? That's concerning to me. It just is. So because of that, can't have them too much higher. The Jaguars actually have a decent coverage unit. They do. I have them as a I don't have them getting any wins with their pass rush. I know some people are saying, what? But you got Josh Allen, you got Trayvon Walker. I'm just not expecting much from Trayvon Walker in his rookie season. I think he'll take time to develop. That's okay. You're building for the future, but I just think he'll take time to develop, and then you can just double team Josh Allen and you're all right. The Falcons, who are basically a 2-player defense, I guess 3 players, I would say, because Grady Jarrett is also great, but it's really the A.J. Terrell, Casey Hayward combination that, listen, an older corner in Casey Hayward, who knows, but I'm willing to bet that I would bet on him succeeding more so than not succeeding. Definitely would bet on A.J. Terrell succeeding. He was fantastic last year. So, kind of relying on stars, but hey, you got some stars in the right positions, so that should make your defense at least decent. The Chiefs are another team where, there's stuff to like about this Chiefs team. I really do think that. I think their run defense should be solid. I don't think their pass rush is great. You got that Frank Clark situation, which is just odd, just kind of a weird situation in general. He was great he did some nice things that postseason run, but as a whole has not been worth the contract. No doubt about that. I think the coverage should be solid, and you did add some guys in that coverage unit that could make it better. Brian Cook and Trent McDuffie, where you drafted, McDuffie first-round pick, Cook second-round pick, and even Leo Chenal third-round pick, although he's more of a run-stuffing linebacker. So, as a whole, stuff to like about this Chiefs team. The Bengals are one of those teams as well where it's like, there's stuff to like here. It's just, I care so much about corners, especially like in their scheme, you need 2 corners, and it's like, what Eli Apple are we getting? If we get Eli Apple of last year, we're good. But it's just like, are we really betting on Eli Apple after one solid season? Maybe yes. Maybe it'll be all right. But to me, that is concerning. They did come up with some I would say some backup plans, but I don't know if they fully would fit into it because, like, you drafted Daxton Hill, you drafted Cam Taylor-Britt, who can both be sort of backup plans in that secondary in general. I think Hill just is a very different style of player. I don't see him as an outside corner. I wasn't a huge fan of Cam Taylor-Britt, so I don't know. But, Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie, like, you're good on corners if you can just get that number 2 corner situation down. And I don't know if they can, so that's why they're here. The Titans, yes, all Titans fans, leave your angry comments in the comment section below. How is their pass rush? Tier 4. It's Tier 4, not Tier 5, but how is it not Tier 1? Look at all the sacks they got last year. Every advanced statistic I've seen says that their pass rush was largely inflated, and the idea of why their pass rush looked better was due to the fact that their coverage unit was playing so well, which I think people view it the opposite way, that if pass rush gets there, it doesn't matter how bad your coverage is. It's typically the opposite. If your coverage is good, even a lesser pass rush unit will still be able to generate pressure. That's just how I view it. I know Titans fans disagree. I'll be interested in seeing which one of us is right this next season, because listen, it's not like I've been right about everything. Definitely not. I'll get my wrong takes plenty. So maybe this is one of them. Maybe it's not. We'll see. The Jets are a team here at 16 where, again, don't love their front 7 too much. I think they have some, again, you got some talent there. Every team has talent on the pass rush situation. That's just kind of one of those things where I think you only look at your pass rush situation and say, oh, there's plenty of stuff here without looking at the whole body of work. You got to look at the whole body of work, but, got to look at everyone, not just your entire pass rush situation, but who you're going up against. What are the other teams? What are their pass rush situations? But, I like that their secondary is, I think it's good, and I just trust Sauce Gardner will come in and play well. Now, it's just Tier 2 because I don't know that he'll come in and play well, but I trust that he should come in and at least play decent because I really liked him out of college. At number 15, we have another typo, unfortunately, which is, not great. The coverage unit has Tier 3 on it, which is not the case. It should be Tier 1. So you add 2.2 wins to their total there. This actually puts them as the 3rd best defense in football, not the 15th best. So for any Browns fans mad, well, there you go. Now you're probably pretty happy. But just explaining, why I like their team so much. Again, coverage to have the depth now with Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams. They even drafted Martin Emerson in the 3rd round. You have solid safeties with John Johnson, Grant Delpit, and Rodney Harrison, and even Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Anthony Walker can cover as well at the linebacker position. That stuff very good. You got Myles Garrett. He's going to do a lot of damage on his own, but he's not on his own. You also have Jadeveon Clowney, so it's the 3rd best defense. I just, I forgot to update the coverage situation. So my bad on that one. A couple of typos here. Maybe next time I will double check before creating the graphics. So apologies about that. I know typically when I make a typo, most people don't care, and then there's like 2 or 3 people that really care. So sorry to those 2 or 3 people that are really upset right now that I made typos. But anyways, let's move on. Number 14, you have the Minnesota Vikings, who, again, like their run defense a lot. This is a Tier 1 run defense, and there is value in that. I think that's something that's often overlooked, but it does matter. I guess the question is, there's a big question mark at kind of their, I guess, number 2 corner. I mean, Cameron Dantzler, I don't know if I'm willing to say is a number 1 corner, but he's a very good number 2 at the very least. And, maybe is a number 1. And you have Patrick Peterson and Andrew Booth kind of are the question marks. Andrew Booth, a rookie. Patrick Peterson, who's good, but definitely getting up there in age. So are we really going to see them come in and thrive right away? Lewis Cine, I think, should thrive right away. But, there's guys I like. I think it could work out. It could not work out. So that's why it's Tier 3 for me. The Balls, also known as the Washington football team, another interesting team where they should be able to stop the run very well. They should be able to rush the passer decently well. And I think they should be able to cover decently well. I think that there's kind of a complete team. And if William Jackson can step up from what we saw last year, they could be a much better defense, I would say. The Steelers, you got TJ Watt, your Tier 1 pass rush. But again, he's not by himself. There's plenty of talent as well around there. Also a fantastic run defense on top of this. So that front 7 is, nearly as good as you could ask for it. I have it actually as Tier 2 run defense, but, very good. I just don't love their coverage. And to me, I am someone who thinks that coverage matters a lot. And so if that's how I view it, there's some question marks at their corner position. I think that's fair to say. Maybe those question marks will work out. Sometimes they do. Coverage is a tough position to evaluate, and I think there's some real logic behind, let's make sure we get a great front seven and just hope we can patch together coverage because it's so fluky anyways. Who knows how this works, but, we'll see. You have the Patriots, who are tied for 11th here, and yeah, I mean, I have their coverage as tier 2. I do. I know people are saying, wait a second, a tier 2 coverage unit with cornerback 1, Jalen Mills. Well, Jalen Mills was good last year. He's worked for the Patriots. And it's like, come on. You got Jonathan Jones, you got Marcus Jones and Jack Jones. You got a bunch of Joneses there who all do these different things. Jalen Mills on top of this. Haven't we just seen this enough times with Bill Belichick? He knows how to use these guys perfectly. It's going to work out. That's just how I view it. If this was if any other team had this group, I'd be like, this is looking rough. But it's like Belichick gets these very specific guys. I trust that he knows what he's doing. Maybe I'll be wrong. But as of right now, I actually kind of like this defense. The Eagles are another team which, I like their defense a decent amount. Their run defense is fantastic. They always love to get this defensive line stuff in order. I have their pass rush as tier 3. You can only have so many great pass rushes. Only 11 get into tier 1. I do think that they're more of a run defensive line type of thing, but there's so much depth there that there's almost no chance that it ends up being bad at either one of those categories. There always is a chance, but you never know. Coverage is definitely relying on some old guys, Darius Slay and James Bradbury, but if they can both play at their best, this could be an elite defense. So I'm very fascinated about that. For the San Francisco 49ers, this is where things definitely get interesting. So again, like their front seven, a decent deal. Their coverage, they added Tre'Davious Ward, who coverage matters. Getting that consistency in coverage matters. I like a lot of this stuff. There's, except with the exception of their pass rush, which I have as tier 1, I don't have anything that I love about the rest of this team. But hey, that's a pretty good defense. That gets you at number 9, although, actually number 10, because the Browns do jump most of these teams. Number 8 here, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who the reality is just don't love their pass rush. That's kind of the main thing that hurts them. And, their coverage is solid, but I do think that there are some question marks. Like Sean Murphy-Bunting didn't have his best year last year when he was on the field. So, I think the Devin White question is always there with his coverage, which is, he still plays coverage. That still factors in. Run defense should be very good. Again, any defense with Vita Vea and Levante David is going to have a great run defense, and they have other guys as well. I would like to see them have more than just Shaq Barrett in the pass rush game, I would say. Maybe Joe Tryon-Shoyinka steps up. He was the first rounder last year, but for now, that's where I have him. The Ravens, of course, they have a great coverage. This is what they always have. I mean, the Ravens are just in an interesting spot where their coverage unit looks awesome before you add on the fact that they added who many people believe is the best safety out of this draft class and kind of a generational safety. So because of that, I mean, lot to like about this team. Pass rush isn't spectacular, but they've never relied on a dominant pass rush. They've always relied on coverage. You can scheme up pass rush, but you can't scheme up coverage. That's the reality of the situation. Should stop the run solidly. The Rams here, the biggest concern I have about this Rams defense, which I love everything about it, except for the second corner. That second corner matters so much. I have questions. I do. Losing Darius Williams, that could hurt. Maybe they'll be all right. Maybe they'll figure out a way to do it. I just have some concerns there. We have the Bills here as well, another team so their pass rush I'm not quite as high on as the Rams, obviously. They do not have an Aaron Donald, but you have a Von Miller. He's pretty good. Another guy who won a Super Bowl last year with the Rams, of course. You have, I think, a better coverage unit for them. Tre'Davious White, who, Tre'Davious White has probably had more good seasons at this point than he has had great seasons, so maybe he is just good, not great, or maybe he still is great. I don't know, but listen, either way, you'll take that. A guy who's consistently good with some great seasons, that's about as good of a corner as you can ask for, really. You have Taron Johnson, who should be solid, and then you drafted Kair Elam, so relying on a corner a little bit, that's a bit concerning, but other than that, I think their coverage should be good. And you also notice how with these coverage situations, The top 4 coverage units I have are, or not the top 4 coverage units I have, but the top 4 teams I have are the top, 4 out of the technically 6 tier 1 coverage units, since I added the Browns but didn't take anyone away just because that would be we're getting too complex there. So the Dolphins here are at number 4, largely on the strength of their, in my opinion, best coverage unit in football, with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, who are 2 guys I do trust to be very effective. Javon Holland was fantastic last year. You have Eric Rowe, who's very good. Brandon Jones, who's fine depth. Nick Needham, who I'd say is better than fine depth at the cornerback position. So a lot of good stuff with this coverage unit. And who knows, maybe like you can get, Jalen Phillips to step up and help out that pass rush situation, make that even better. It's possible. Colts, another team that like their coverage unit a lot. Their run defense is very good. Think they could use some work on the pass rush front a little bit, but it's not horrible either. I mean, it's fine. Like, Kwity Paye's pretty good. DeForest Buckner can rush the passer from the inside. It'll get the job done. There's just a lot of good pass rush units. So really like the Colts. The Saints, who now I have we're finally past the teams that, the Browns have jumped. So the Colts are 4, the Dolphins are actually 5, but the Saints are still 2. This defense is just going to be, it's annoying to play against. As a Tampa Bay fan, I definitely don't like this defense, but I don't like it because it's so good. I think that their coverage should be fantastic. They have stars and they have depth at the coverage unit position. They stop the run as well. They can stop the run even with 2 safeties deep, which is just such a mess to play against. I think maybe, there are teams with better pass rushes, including the team that I have at number 1, the best defense in football, and it's a perfect defense in my opinion. I have tier 1s across the board for this defense, which is not easy to do. I think their coverage unit is fantastic. I have it as the 2nd best coverage unit in football behind Miami, where you have Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas, 3 guys who can play, not to mention Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage at the safety position, and even Devontae Campbell, who can cover as well. You added Quay Walker. That's very fascinating. Their run defense should be fantastic because, you still have Kenny Clark in there. Their pass rush should be fantastic. I just like this defense a lot. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's going to do some real damage. That's what I think. What do you guys think about all of this? I'm sure you will have no critiques or criticisms whatsoever, so I'm glad that I made a perfect list that everyone agrees with. Thank you for watching, though. Hey, the disagreements are fun. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.